Hello, everyone. Uh, uh, God, okay. This isn't scripted. I would just like to say that, no, I'm not becoming a review tuber. This isn't a thing I'm gonna start doing now. I played Bendy in the Dark Revival, and I have a lot of things to say. And so, rather than, continuing to irritate my friends by, talking about this game to them ad nauseum, I'm going to make a review of it. So there you go. Obviously, spoilers for Bendy and the Ink Machine, as well as Bendy and the Dark Revival. Uh, if you want to play those games, I wouldn't, obviously, I wouldn't recommend Bendy and the Dark Revival, but if you want to play them, then now's your chance to exit, because I'm going to talk about the whole thing. Uh, I don't really have anything written down, so I might go a bit out of order. Uh, but that's just how I am. I'm plugging my computer in, so you're gonna hear some clanging. Okay, so I feel like I should talk about Bendy and the Ink Machine first. I liked Bendy and the Ink Machine. I know it's very looked down upon nowadays, and I definitely understand why, because there's a general lack of cohesion in what it's supposed to be. Is this a stealth game? Is this like a fighting game? Is this a puzzle game? It just sort of did whatever it wanted, and it didn't really work. And the ending, yeesh, it wasn't planned out at all. But I still liked it because the ambience was nice, the music was nice. I like, obviously, the voice acting is great in that game. But sorry, I'm very tired. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed that game. Uh, so I was really looking forward to. Okay, actually, no, was I? I don't know. Huh. I kind of forgotten about Bendy and the Dark Revival, honestly. Because it had entered development hell, and you started to hear about what was going on with you know Joey Drew Studios, not the actual company, not the video game one, which is very funny. Or what are they called? Kindly Beast? I don't even know. But I'd heard what was going on, and a lot of people expected that game would never come out. I thought it would. Like I wasn't in the camp of saying, oh, this will never come out. I just thought that when it came out, it wouldn't end up being very good. Um, and so I kind of forgot about it. And so when on Halloween the trailer released, I was like, oh, I forgot this game existed. Very weird that they're just now suddenly like now it's like, oh, this releases in 2 weeks, and it's like, what? You guys have barely talked about this in like a year. But so yeah, I saw the trailer and I was like, this actually looks pretty good. Uh, Maybe it seems to be very combat focused. Maybe it'll have a better focus and a more interesting story. Um, yeah, that didn't happen. God, where do I even begin? By the way, there's probably going to be a couple of cuts in this because Bandicam only lets me record for like 10 minutes at a time, so I may as well just announce that now. Probably won't be anything visual. You'll just like hear a weird audio cut. But huh. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember this game. I barely remember this game somehow, even though I played it like 5 days ago. Uh, hmm. Okay, I guess I should start with the main thing that this game likes to focus on is the combat and the stealth, and those two tend to go together. Actually, I guess stealth puzzles. I don't know. I guess I'll just start by talking about combat, because this game likes to make you fight things, and the fighting is not good. Because in the original Bendy and the Ink Machine, fighting was never anything special. It was like okay, Because at least the enemies were slow, and you could, dodge their attacks. But in this game, the main enemy, the enemy that appears 90% of the time, which is weird, because there's, no enemy variety in this, are the Lost Ones. And the Lost Ones can attack you, physically, and they also have projectile attacks. And it is borderline impossible to avoid taking damage. You are going to take damage in a fight against one of them, let alone three. And the game really likes to suddenly spawn three of them once you've done a key element of a puzzle, and so you round a corner not expecting it, and suddenly you're being pummeled to death. Also, something I find really funny, the enemies can spawn camp you in this game. I played it on normal difficulty. I don't know if you were supposed to play it on easy the first time. That may be the case, and maybe that's why I found it so difficult. But it is still just needlessly brutal. Okay, now, some of you might be thinking, well, maybe the game doesn't want you to fight enemies directly, despite the fact that it, gives you a weapon and a bunch of, weapon upgrade stuff. Maybe it wants you to be stealthy. Well, you could have fooled me, because every stealth element in this game is stupid. The freaking... what are they? The hiding spots? In the original game, the hiding spots were always, I think they were toilets? They're called little angel stations or whatever, but I think they were supposed to be toilets, but, I could be wrong about that. But, when you saw them in the original game, you were like, oh, hey, that's a hiding spot. But in this one, they can take the form of those, barrels, lockers, and, desks and stuff. And, that sounds nice on paper, get some more variety going. But in practice, because of this game's limited color palette, which, well, I'll come back to later, and because of these hiding spots coming in so many varieties, it is really hard to notice these hiding spots in a frenzied panic when you're trying to hide. Not to mention the fact that it's very difficult to hide sometimes, because this is one of those irritating games where you can't click on an object if you're too close to it. So you need to stop when you're, at a certain length from the hiding spot, or else the prompt to hide will disappear. Which is hard to do when you're being chased. Shit, I gotta yawn again. What else was there? Oh, yeah. It also introduces the banishing mechanic, which you're able to, if you're sneaking up on an enemy, you're able to grab them and essentially insta-kill them. I don't know how this works, and from what I've played, it doesn't work. I've done it a couple of times. I don't know if I need to be directly behind an enemy to do it, because, I've been sneaking right next to enemies and, not been able to do it. I've been waiting around a corner for them, so I guess you need to be behind them or something? I don't know, but it's very inconvenient to do, especially when there's multiple enemies. And something else that's very funny to me are the corners that you can look around. Not only does this rarely help, but they're rarely there. It feels like there's 5 corners in this game that you can do that to, and it just feels pointless if it's not something you can rely on. It would have been nice if maybe you could lean using Q and E, for example, or something similar. Oh shoot, what else was there? Oh yeah, right. The ink demon in this. So I liked the ink demon in the original game. I mean, he wasn't used a lot. But he was sort of the strongest part of that game visually, because he was very creepy and uncanny. But with this, so a common complaint that I heard about Chapter 3 is that, Bendy appears, I guess it's not about Chapter 3, it's regarding Chapter 3, is that Bendy will, if you make enough noise or something, he'll occasionally show up, and you need to hide and wait for him to pass. That was, people were like, oh, why wasn't it like that in other chapters? That was actually sort of a neat mechanic. And I would have to agree, but Dark Revival seems to have taken that criticism to heart and tried to implement that in the worst way I've ever seen. Because essentially what it does is it just starts a countdown. It'll say, the ink demon is coming, hide, despite the fact that it doesn't need to say that every time because the visual cues are obvious. And then if you're not in a hiding space in like, I don't know, maybe 8 seconds, you die instantly. So it's not like he appears and you need to run from him and then find a hiding space. You just need to be in a hiding space. And it's very uninteresting and irritating. And it's even worse when occasionally you'll be bombarded by enemies and suddenly it's like, hide, and you try to hide. It's like you can't access this while in combat. Except for when you can, because this game has really weird and inconsistent rules. And yeah, also, I forgot to mention it, with the hiding space, the enemies are so freaking slow that hiding is, like, I've just gone out of hiding spaces to try to, like, just be stealthy without them, just because of how freaking long they take. Like, I'd rather risk dying than have to wait, like, a minute. Or, like, freaking 5 minutes. Okay, on with the Ink Demon bit. What was it? Oh yeah, they gave him a voice, and I don't like it. It's very over the top and stupid, and all he says is like, oh, I'm gonna eat your soul, as he, like, freaking gargles cement or whatever. But, like, because, yeah, it always sounds like he's freaking gargling, and that's kind of a neat voice. Like, I get it, it's ink, but it's also just sort of gross and weird, and he isn't scary. And he was a lot creepier in the original game, because you didn't know his intentions. Like, not that you really know his intention in this, because he's just evil and vague. Like, he's like the Lich from Adventure Time, essentially, of just, oh, I'm bad. But yeah, they made him way less cool, and his design resembles Bendy a lot less. It's sort of a mix between his original design and his, like, final brute design. Because of the teeth are all, like, separated, and he's got more of a devil horn thing. And it doesn't really resemble the cartoon character anymore, other than, like, a little floppy bow tie you can see sometimes. And I just don't like it as much. Okay, now, back to the enemies. You know, I said there was really only one kind of enemy that appeared 90% of the time. There's also the, what are they called? The Searchers make an appearance, like, once. You kill one, and then later you get swarmed by them. Yeah, they never show up again. So that's great. The Butcher Gang have essentially been relegated to random encounters, like, you know, they're neat. It's kind of what I wanted the Ink Demon to be in this game. But you know, he's not. But, okay, there is one exception. I don't think the Fisher ever appears in this, actually, because I think it's just the Piper and the Wrench guy, but there is a new member of the Butcher Gang. I think they're called the Slicer. They are the stupidest inclusion in this game. They just will randomly show up, scream, and then, like, take a big chunk of your health. I think you can either, like, hit them or, like, dodge them or something. But you're probably gonna get caught off guard, because it happens, like, frequently enough to be annoying, but infrequently enough that you never see it coming. By the way, I don't think there was a single instance when I died in this game that I was scared and not just, like, annoyed. But yeah, the Slicer essentially acts as guaranteed damage. And that's a bit of a common thread in this game. And I guarantee that they know about it, because there's healing items everywhere. Oh, and also, you don't naturally heal anymore, which another fan suggestion that did not work out great. I'm not saying that some of these fan suggestions, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that these guys really messed them up. Oh shoot, what do I talk about now? Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, there's the spider boss that randomly just shows up. There's like 2 boss fights in this game, which is just great. You know, I thought that this game would feel better and more consistent than the original since it was made all in one go instead of chapter by chapter, and boy was I wrong. Dang it, what was I saying? Dang, I'm completely drawing a blank at what I was saying. Oh yeah, the spider. That boss fight kind of sucked. The fighting the mini spiders is really irritating because they're tiny and you can barely hit them. And sometimes they'll leap at you, but like somehow they go through you and behind you, so now you're being attacked from both the front and the back, and this game just doesn't feel suited for it. Shoot, what else? It's like I want to talk about the story, but I'm trying to make sure I hit everything else first. Right, there's the teleportation ability. It's very irritating to use because it has a really long cooldown timer, presumably because they don't want you to use it in combat for some reason, even though that would have made the combat actually freaking fun. But yeah, it's very irritating, and doing puzzles takes forever because it's really like finicky, and sometimes you'll aim for like a ledge and then you'll be like right next to the ledge and fall off, and then you have to do it again, except now you're being like swarmed by enemies. Because yeah, it likes to put enemies literally everywhere. There were so many sequences in this game where I didn't know where to go or what to do, because like I missed something. Because like, oh man, I keep thinking about that section. I need to talk about that section. The section where it's like the sleep area where the employees sleep. That area is so irritating because there's like 12 enemies, and like it's really obscure what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to like press it buttons and like, actually maybe it's not obscure. It's just like hard to concentrate when you're constantly being attacked by enemies. And there's like a key you're supposed to grab, and I didn't notice it because everything in this game is like beige, and so it does it's not good at directing your eye towards things that you need to do, because you know, most puzzle games, at least generally, should be more about not knowing. It's not. You should know what to do. You should just not know how to do it. In this game, it's just a constant like, where am I? What am I doing? What's going on? What do I need to do for this? I'm so freaking confused. And it's just irritating. What else do I talk about? God, there's so many weird sections in this game. I guess I should just start with the story now. The story in this game is terrible, honestly. It's really bad. Okay, so there's sort of this thing that I think was sort of set up in the original game because they had no plan, where everything that happens is inside of the ink machine. And the only thing that's really canon outside of the ink machine is that Joey built an ink machine to trap Henry in it as revenge. And so basically everything that goes on in there is non-canon. Like all the stories of like, you know, voice actors and like all this stuff. It's sort of presented as being non-canon. Like, I think it's very convoluted. And this game sort of centers on that, which is, it's very irritating. There's this bit, I like the character. Okay, so Joey Drew shows up in this, except it's not Joey Drew. He's just a memory, which if anyone's seen episode 9 of Star Wars, the Han Solo scene where it's like, you're not real, you're just a memory, because they couldn't have him be like an actual ghost because that doesn't make any sense. This makes me think of that, because they wanted a character who could act as Joey Drew but not like have to take the fall for anything he did. So Joey Drew will just occasionally show up and like deliver a really long exposition spiel, and it's just the most inorganic storytelling I've ever seen. And it's like randomly just like, oh, plot twist, you were... Okay, I want to talk about the plot twist thing. Just suddenly being like, oh, I don't know who my parents are. And it's like, plot twist, your dad was Joey Drew and you are Ink. Or, oh, I'm Wilson, I'm the villain. That's not what he sounds like. He's not Southern. It's like, oh, my dad needs help. Just kidding. I don't like my dad. He's dead. And it's like, it isn't a plot twist if this is the second time you're bringing it up. Like, something needs to be relevant for, like, a twist reveal to work. Right? Like, it doesn't make any freaking sense. But yeah, I just like the bit where Joey's like, no, I can't fix this. I'm just a memory. And then it's like, you're my daughter. I love you. And it's like, well, which is it? But yeah, gosh. Shoot, what else? Oh yeah, mini Bendy. Child Bendy? Small lad Bendy? Whatever the frick you want to call him. Okay, sorry, awkward cut. Bendy. They showed him in a trailer. You think he's going to be a big deal? I mean, I guess that was just sort of fan expectation, but you think he's going to be a big deal from the trailers. He appears for, like, no time at all, and all he does is follow you. I know people think he's cute. I think he's cute, too. I kind of called the whole, like, actually, no, wait, did I? I don't know, No, I was spoiled. That was it. I was spoiled on the freaking he was actually the ink demon thing the whole time, which is the most boring, generic plot twist ever. God, people need to stop spoiling crap. It's not... You can't say spoiler warning and then put an image of the spoiler in the thumbnail. But yeah, I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for everything I say here. Visually, little Bendy is very cute. In practice, he's basically just an inferior Boris. He just follows you around for a little. He doesn't do anything, and then, like, suddenly he's gone, and you, like, never see him again. Since I'm on that part, what are they called? The Cycle Breakers? Those guys are cool. Or okay, are the Cycle Breakers? What I'm trying to remember. Are they the people they're holding captive, or like the monsters? Because like it's made very unclear. And I'd just like to say that starting a cycle over is not breaking a cycle. It is perpetuating a cycle. That's not how that works. But yeah, I like their voice. They kind of sound like Daleks, which is cool. I like creepy voice effects. Oh shoot, what else was there? Betty was a character. Was her name Betty? Her name was Betty, right? She existed. She was there for 5 seconds. From the trailer, okay, so from the trailer, I had assumed, I guess this is sort of my fault for having expectations at all. From the trailer, I'd assumed that, like, we were gonna get to see, like, because, you know, when Wilson was like, oh, this is the civilized world, I thought we'd see more than just, like, the one person. Because I'd assumed that, like, from the trailer that this was sort of the, you know, sort of civilized, aristocratic place, and that, like, the reason she was wearing a mask was that, like, rich people, you know, since they're all goopy like everyone else, just wore masks of their actual faces. Which, I mean, That's not the case, and I know that's a weird thing. I'm not saying that it's bad that it didn't adhere to my headcanon. It just, the actual thing felt very disappointing. Yeah, it's very weird. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could mention before the finale. Oh yeah, there was a lot of. There were a lot of fan servicey bits, like mostly the everyone being locked up. Although I actually, as weird as it is, I actually really like that sequence. I think that was a very entertaining thing to look at. I will say, having the characters locked up, uh, it's like I get that it's like, oh, we can't like overuse them. That'd just be weird. And it's like, okay, but you didn't really have any memorable characters, like any new characters to fill their place. You had like Joey, who appeared sometimes. You had like small Bendy, who's worse Boris. You had is his name Porter, the crazy guy? He was cool. He appeared for 5 seconds. There were a few other guys. Big Steve. I forgot about Big Steve. From the trailer, I think everyone thought Big Steve was going to be an enemy. I'm a little disappointed because they make you do. The fetch quests in this game are insane. Like, they just make you go back to a place you've already been where nothing has changed except there's like a couple more enemies. And in exchange for Big Steve's quest, you get some resources you could have found anywhere else. And in exchange for, like, Betty's quest, you get, like, a collectible. So, like, there's no point in doing these. You don't get anything from them. They're certainly not fun. One time I went back to town to get Betty's shop stuff, and I had to reload because it thought I was still with little Bendy searching for a key card. It like, yeah, I don't know if that's probably the game's fault. I know there's some stuff in here that was definitely bad on my end, because like occasionally parts of the map wouldn't load, and like I think that's might be in my computer, because my computer like can't run like stuff like Slime Rancher. I don't know. Maybe it was I wouldn't be surprised if it was on this game. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was their fault. But oh, shoot, what else was I saying? But yeah, so know that a lot of times the game slowed down to like 6 frames per second, which made combat very fun. Sorry, I'm kind of just skimming my brain for anything to say here before I hit the ending point. I'll just talk about the ending. So, because I remember that the clearest, because it's like, one bit at a time. Shoot, what else was there? Or no, sorry, not else, what is there? God, I'm having a stroke. What did it start with? Oh yeah, the fight against Wilson's weird thing that he drew. That was a weird bit. It was not a good boss fight. It was a very bad boss fight. It was like the most basic of boss fights. Like I thought there was gonna be like another phase, but no, you just hit him, and then he dies. I mean, I know there's a bit where you have to make him break stuff. I like that he has an anchor. That's neat. I like that there was an anchor. That's gonna be my review for this game, just completely out of context. I liked the part with the anchor. But yeah, it was just, and afterwards, Ink Demon shows up and he's like, "Oh, you're I don't know, part of the Ink or some stupid stuff," and then he's like, "Oh, why don't you merge, girl?" And then it's like, "Oh, and now you is Ink Demon and you killed Joey," and it's just like, why is this the thing he's doing? And then you just completely override his control. He's like, "You think you can disobey me?" Yeah, apparently it's very easy. Because, like, why would you be like, why would you hand someone else the keys to your car and then like get mad when they drive it? But But yeah, for some reason it turns into an escape sequence, except it's like a freaking like Godzilla King Kong segment where you cannot die and you just run, and then you put in the the end tape from the first game. So reusing like I don't get that. If everyone's free now, then why would starting the cycle over make anything better? Also, and then suddenly Audrey's no longer in the machine. She's like out of the machine, and then it's like, oh, stuff's leaking into the real world, and now Bendy is real, and it's like, what are you on about? Are we just gonna do this like in a post-credit sequence, just being like, oh, okay, that's a very casual thing to mention. And it's just like, also I love the bit where she bends her finger and it goes like boing oing, where it's like, yeah, I'm made of ink, and it's like, how did you not notice that before? Like, did you never like do anything with your body? You draw cartoons for a living. How did you not notice that your fingers were bendy? Haha, Bendy. Womp womp. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, wrapping this up, I don't think I'm ever gonna buy another game from these people. Suffice to say, because this, I mean, it's not intolerable, but it's not fun enough to justify like $10 more than the original. The original was better. It makes me sad. I mean, I know that that's the way the internet is, but it makes me sad to see all of these people praising this game and being like, "Oh, this is amazing," and like, "Oh, this is better than the original." And it really surprised me to see the maker of Five Nights at Freddy's Plus, Fiznom, being like, "Oh, this sequel's way better. I had a good time." And it's like, aren't you like the most cynical person out there? Like, I mean, maybe I just have problems. Maybe I can't appreciate anything anymore. But it's just, I mean, that might be it. But this game is just, there's so many problems with it, and it's just so irritating. And it's just sad that there's gonna be a bunch of people who are just like, oh, and this game is so good. This is like 10 out of 10 for me, dog. And I'm just gonna sit here and be like, what did we play different games? This game was like, God, I'm repeating myself. I can't take this, man. Living in a weird, overly positive climate towards like any indie game is just ridiculous. And like, I like indie games. Like, I think the original Bendy and the Ink Machine was cool, but it's just like, it's just weird to see the generic everyday Let's Player who's being very like optimistic and like, oh, this is so scary about everything, just in the hopes that they can get like a brand deal. Which I feel like is a lot of stuff, right? Like, I feel like that's why you see, people like Daco being so like overly positive about a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. Because he's partnered with the maker of the game, but yeah, I felt the need to get my thoughts out there, just because I feel like there should at least be like a drop of criticism in the sea that is going to be praised for this game. Like, and I know that sounds kind of screwed up, but I want people to know that some people don't like this game, and that it's not, like, universally liked. Like, I know some people didn't like this game, but, I want to know that I'm not alone, man, because I'm losing my mind over this. It was just so disappointing. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. I hoped you enjoyed this video. I don't know if I'll be doing anything like this again. I just, I played this crappy game, and I felt the need to cash out, so to speak. So, end of the video.